At the wedding I personally planned, my always serious childhood sweetheart and fiancée eloped with my best man, who was dressed in a wedding suit. Her sister abruptly boarded the wedding car, clinging to me and pushing me into the Civil Affairs Bureau, insisting on getting our marriage license. The backdrop suddenly collapsed, revealing a hall full of guests laughing at me. The two childhood sweethearts who once swore to cherish me forever tore up the fake marriage certificate and threw it in my face, all for a smile from the best man. The three of them joyously drank from intertwined glasses on stage. Your planned wedding was so old-fashioned. You should be honored that we changed it to a bachelor party for Cheng. The official wedding will be held on Sunday. Isn't Cheng's idea a wonderful surprise? They were certain I couldn't live without them. But I just calmly picked up my phone. Let's schedule the wedding with the eldest Miss Liu for this Sunday. Excited messages frantically poured in from the other side. The wedding planning schedule will be arranged immediately. Su Cheng, with his arm around Yun, smiled indulgently. Don't worry, brother Shen Ze, I'm not the marrying type. I just wanted to experience the feeling of getting married. The two Miss Yes will be taken care of soon. I didn't reply. My phone was suddenly swatted away by Yun. Are you deaf? Where are the manners the Yi family taught you? Cheng is pure-hearted. Do you have to be so petty as to not even reply? My fiancée, Guan, walked up to me and shielded Su Cheng. She glanced at my phone. What schedule? Are you going on a business trip? I quickly turned off the screen and picked up the phone. Company project? The three of them looked incredibly well-matched, making my suit, covered in fake marriage certificate fragments, look utterly ridiculous. Whispers rippled through the crowd below. Look at him, he still thinks he's the groom. This is a party the two Miss Yes specifically prepared for Su Cheng. The moment her sister eloped, she thought of marrying the younger sister. Miss Ian really has this man wrapped around her finger, knowing he's desperate for a woman. The guests were all wealthy friends who held nothing but malicious mockery for me. And the two childhood sweethearts who swore to protect me forever were completely absorbed in doting on Su Cheng. I looked around. The romantic decorations I had meticulously arranged were completely destroyed. The white balloons and roses were sprayed with bright red paint. Happy bachelorhood. This play, with me as the punchline, was orchestrated by them to demonstrate their favoritism towards Su Cheng. I lifted a piece of the torn certificate, my hand trembling uncontrollably. Su Cheng paused, his eyes reddening as he lowered his head. Brother Shen Ze, it's my fault. I suggested they surprise you with a bachelor party. I'm sorry. Guan held his hand and coldly accused me. Can you stop playing the victim? You're a wedding planner. Haven't you seen every scenario possible? Upon hearing this, Ian instantly erupted, grabbing my wrist and shoving me in front of Su Cheng. Shen Ze, Cheng is just a fresh-out-of-college student. How could you pressure him like this? Only he would be scared by your feigned vulnerability. Apologize now. I winced, but after steadying myself, I simply removed the ring I had designed. Guan's expression changed, and she subconsciously covered her hand. The handcrafted wedding ring I had painstakingly designed over 3 months, which she had worn, had already been replaced with one matching Su Cheng's. I answered quickly, You're right. Enjoy the bachelor party today. They looked at me in surprise. This was the first time I had ever yielded to them regarding Su Cheng. After all, I had always argued with them because of him. When Su Cheng threw away my stomach medicine, they intercepted all ambulance resources. Before leaving, they just looked at me coldly. Can you stop throwing tantrums and faking illness? You always target him the moment Su Cheng shows up. Now, I wouldn't make a fuss anymore. Let's break up. I decisively tossed the ring. Guan froze, her face immediately hardening. I smiled. Happy bachelorhood, isn't it? Yin was the first to lose her composure, her brows furrowing. Are you crazy? Fine, you don't accept Cheng's surprise, but you won't marry someone from the Yi family? Who else would want you? My heart, which I thought wouldn't ache anymore, chilled further. I smiled, calmly tossing the fragments of the fake marriage certificate onto Yi Yun. She incredulously grabbed my wrist, her voice rising sharply. "How dare you?" The pain was sharp and clear. I remembered how they used to anxiously apply medicine to my injuries, vigilantly protecting me. Now, I was no longer someone they wanted to protect. I replied indifferently. "This is Mr. Su Cheng's idea. You should experience it." Yi Yun fell silent, her face alternating between red and white, as she disgustedly threw the fragments back at me. "Have you had enough?" "Shen Ze." Guan frowned, walking up to me. She tilted her head up and spoke indifferently. "Our wedding is next week. If you embarrass yourself like this in front of so many people again, I'll cancel the wedding." In the past, I would have begged for their forgiveness. My parents died protecting me, and Grandma resented me so much that she refused to raise me. So I was taken in by the Yi family, with whom we were close. The inferiority complex of living under someone else's roof meant that, whenever either of my childhood sweethearts got angry, I was always the first to apologize. Blushing and feeling sorry for me, they would say they held me dear to their hearts and wouldn't let me feel upset again. After 17 years together, Yi Guan, the gentler of the two, and I officially became a couple. Ian had her tantrums too, but as we grew up, she continued to treat me like a brother. But things change. Mother Yi went abroad for treatment, and I, like some old belonging, was discarded and unloved. The wedding I had looked forward to became a joke, just like me. The guests below snickered louder, some even egging them on. "Dump this gold digger. He doesn't know his place." The two childhood sweethearts tilted their chins, waiting for my apology and pleas, without a trace of warmth. I smiled wryly. "Then I wish the three of you a happy marriage." A hush fell over the room. Ian, furious, reached out and grabbed my tie like I was a dog on a leash. "What do you mean? You know how important a girl's reputation is. Why are you spreading rumors about Xiao Cheng? You're ruining everything." She knew. She knew this was the wedding I had poured my heart into planning. Yet she still humiliated me for someone else. I choked, my eyes reddening as I met hers. She suddenly froze. I wrenched myself free and strode out. Ian panicked and tried to follow, but Yiguan's calm voice stopped her. "Let him go. I don't believe a homeless orphan like him can go anywhere without us." My steps faltered for a moment. Ian still chased after me, shouting into the empty hallway. "You really dare to leave? The Yi family might as well have raised a dog." Silently, a tear rolled down my cheek. I heard her mutter a few complaints before returning to the banquet hall. The noise behind me gradually subsided. I walked toward the car on the street. "Let's go get the marriage license now." After receiving the certificate, I felt dazed. I met Liu Chi at work. After rejecting her advances, I somehow ended up marrying her anyway. Since we were married, I would spend the remaining 5 days settling things with the past. I went home to pack, but my ties to the Yi family ran too deep. The calculated debts were beyond my ability to repay. Anxiously, I called Liu Chi. Without hesitation, she transferred the money. She had only one request: plan me a grand wedding, the kind that's broadcast nationwide. Liu Chi's laughter was gentle. I looked at the exquisite wedding drafts, my heart itching with anticipation. From our first encounter, she had constantly expressed her appreciation for my abilities. After our marriage, she proactively provided me with high-level planner resources I normally wouldn't have access to. The wedding venue setup even adapted to my ever-changing plans. She seemed determined to lift me up. The Yi family enterprise gave all the good resources to Su Cheng, leaving me with scraps. They even put Su Cheng's name on the proposals I created. Thinking of this, my smile faded. Guan was right. I had been dependent on them. But things were different now. Love wasn't about controlling someone, but about giving them the support to be free. Late on the fourth night, drowsy and half asleep, I heard rustling outside my door. "I told you he couldn't leave us." He talked so tough, but he still came crawling back like a dog. I forced myself up, but Guan snatched the draft from under my hand. "Our wedding is about to happen. What's the point of planning now?" She didn't know this was for my wedding with Liu Chi. Silently, I took the draft back. She furrowed her brows slightly, gently pressing my hand against her face, softening her voice. Xiao Cheng, just wanted to surprise you. We're officially getting married next week anyway. Don't be angry, okay? I knew this wedding was definitely Su Cheng's design. Whether it was our 3-person anniversary or my birthday party, they always brought Su Cheng along to mess up my plans and become the shining stars of the event. And I could only huddle in the corner, eating the ruined cake. Just like now, they had abandoned me for 2 days for Su Cheng without a single word of concern. I was tired. Without looking up, I simply agreed. Relieved, Yi Guan stepped aside, and a reluctant Yi Yun came in from the hallway. Shen Ze, we went too far earlier. The Yi family will always welcome you. We're sorry. I nodded, and Yi Guan, finally at ease, presented a gift box. The lid opened, revealing a worn pair of sneakers. The gift I'd longed for. They held the box as if it were burning their hands, suddenly flustered. I looked at them, a strange smile playing on my lips. Yi guiltily lowered her head to pick up the shoes, half complaining. It must have been left behind by a guest. The boxes are too similar, I got them mixed up. Yi Guan, who swore she would never lie to me, also helped to cover up. Yeah, you know some guests like to be more comfortable. I didn't know any guests could ride back in a private car. Even after Su Cheng appeared, the passenger seat of that private car had become his exclusive spot, his bare feet resting on the cushion where my back used to be. But I didn't care anymore. My understanding made them vaguely uneasy. Shen Ze, why do you seem unhappy? Are you really not angry anymore? The next second, they became alert. If you have anything to say to us, don't take it out on Xiao Cheng. I shook my head. I just think I shouldn't be throwing a tantrum anymore. They looked at each other, surprised by my unusual obedience. Especially when the ringtone rang. The two exchanged excited glances and were about to leave. I lowered my eyes. Aren't you going to give me my present? They froze, the joy on their faces instantly turning into disgust, and they threw the box at my face. Do you even understand priorities? We never realized you were such a materialistic man. Seeing me bleeding, they panicked slightly, but didn't stop. Open it yourself. There's medicine in the first aid kit. The door slammed shut. The clock struck midnight, 3 days to go. I spoke softly. Do you know? Today is actually my birthday. Finally, they had reached the point where they didn't even remember my birthday. But it's okay. At least I don't have to be laughed at anymore. I booked a flight for Sunday morning and went to the cemetery in the drizzling rain. When I was a child, I insisted on going to the mountains for my birthday, and my parents were buried in a mudslide. I couldn't accept that my loving parents were killed because of me. I grew up with pain and guilt, and Liu Chi comforted me all the way. They love you. That's why they tried their best to lift you above their heads when the mudslide came. They wanted you to be happy. Hot tears streamed down my face. No one had ever said that before. Everyone said I was the murderer who killed my parents. Even the 2 Yi family childhood friends avoided talking about it. I want to talk to my parents alone first. So Liu Chi waited for me outside the cemetery. I unexpectedly saw Yi Guan and Yi Yun standing in front of the grave. I was stunned. They hadn't visited the grave in 3 years since Su Cheng arrived. I unconsciously took a step forward in a daze. But the next second, the two of them actually started picking up shovels and digging at my parents' grave. My eyes widened in disbelief as I rushed over, blocking Yi Guan and Yi Yun from shoveling the earth. What are you doing? These are my parents. Seeing me, they felt a moment of guilt, but quickly became righteous. Xiao Cheng's spider died, and after consulting the 8 characters, this place is suitable. We found a better place for your parents. But these are my parents. Tears streamed down my face as I roared in beneath. Su Cheng rushed out from somewhere and pushed me, trying to protect Yi Yun. You crazy man. I won't let you hurt Yin Yun and Xiao Guan. In the chaos, the urn was knocked over. The two of them rushed towards Su Cheng at the same time, checking his scratched ankle with concern. I rushed to hug the urn, tears falling from my eyes. Clearly, when they were young, they also received a lot of love from my parents. But now, for a spider, they were digging up my parents' grave. Su Cheng cried out in pain, but this time the two of them didn't immediately focus their attention on him. Seeing my distraught and tearful appearance, Yin panicked for a moment. Guan was the first to squat down and hug me to comfort me. The dead cannot be resurrected. Fiancée. I raised my hand to slap her, but Su Cheng suddenly rushed over to block the slap and fell to the ground. It's okay, Guan, as long as you're okay. I just hope Brother Fiancée will calm down. He knelt down towards me, his voice hoarse with tears as he apologized, but I clearly held back when I saw him, just lightly brushing his face. The next second, the two childhood friends' heartache turned into resentment. Yin pressed my head into the muddy ground. Guan also pressed on the back of my knees, forcing me to kneel towards the overturned urn. You killed your parents, and now you want to kill Xiao Cheng. How can you be so vicious to your parents? I struggled against the two of them, their words piercing my heart like needles. Su Cheng, behind them, smiled at me. Then he picked up the urn and smashed it hard on the ground. Guan froze, gritting her teeth. I'll have someone clean up my parents'-in-law's ashes. The most important thing now is to temper your bad temper. I roared and crawled forward, but was dragged away by their bodyguards. On the verge of collapse, Liu Chi's figure suddenly appeared at the other exit. My eyes lit up, and I cried out for help. Almost simultaneously, the security guard's hand clamped tightly over my mouth, choking me. I was still slapping the car window when they threw me into the security vehicle, hoping Liu Chi would notice me. But the roar of the engine starting was deafening, and I could only watch my hope fly away. The car screeched to a halt in front of the house. Guan considerately shielded the car door with her hand for Su Cheng, but Yin forcefully dragged me out. She grabbed my packed belongings from the doorway and hurled them at me. The three of them stood under their umbrellas, looking down at me, drenched and disheveled in the rain. Yin sneered sarcastically. What? Weren't you running away from home? Even packed your things? I'll show you where you can go without our Yi family. I silently lowered my head and picked up the damaged equipment. Guan's voice descended upon me. Apologize to Xiao Cheng now, and you can still be our Yi family's son-in-law. I sifted through the items. None of the waterlogged equipment was usable. What can't be kept should be discarded. A sharp screech of brakes pierced the air, and a warm coat was draped over my shoulders. Liu Chi held an umbrella over me, his face a coldness I'd never seen before. You say my husband is your family's son-in-law. The two of them instantly left Su Cheng's side, their faces grim as they stared intently at Liu Chi. They spoke simultaneously, but their words were directed at me. You haven't come to see us these past few days just to mess around with this Jan woman. Calling her your wife already? Are you that shamelessly desperate for a woman? Liu Chi rarely appeared in public, and his unclear identity became Guan's ammunition. Guan's hand gripped my shoulder, yanking hard. The usually gentle woman was now enraged. I'm your fiancé, Shen Ze, having an affair before the wedding, and so blatant about it. I raised my hand and, in the next second, slapped her hard across the face. Guan turned her head away, momentarily stunned. Liu Chi's warm hand squeezed mine, his eyes glancing scornfully at Su Cheng. Keeping a mistress and demanding that others remain chaste for you. Is this how the Yi family teaches you to treat a woman? Silence. Two umbrellas departed, but no one paid attention to the contorted expression on Su Cheng's face. He feigned strength, his eyes reddening as he ducked under Yi Yun's umbrella, putting his arm around her shoulder as if to hold it for her. Xiao Yun, let me, and besides, my ankle is injured, it's no problem. Su. Unexpectedly, no one responded to him. The person who used to make me run 3 kilometers for special medicine, if he stubbed his toe now, neither pushed me away nor opened his arms. Yi Yun and Guan only stared intently at me, as if trying to see a flicker of emotion on my face. But I was completely calm. Guan's grip on my arm tightened instantly. Her teeth clenched as she retorted. There's nothing between us and Su Cheng. Fiancée, don't listen to her trying to drive a wedge between us. Su Cheng's face changed drastically. Xiao Guan, what are you saying? We clearly already. Yi Guan frantically interrupted him. No. Xiao Ze. I cut Su Cheng off. But didn't I already tell you? We broke up. Looking at Yi Guan's instantly reddened eyes, I pulled away from her. Yi still tried to hold my hand, her voice filled with anguish. What's so good about that woman? Our Yi family raised you for more than 10 years. How dare you leave? Did it cost a lot to raise me? The money they used to raise me was from Grandma's regular payments. I turned my head and coughed, pointing at the ruined planning tools on the ground. I have nothing to do with your Yi family anymore. You just kicked me out. Both their faces turned pale, their voices stammering. That's not it, Xiao Ze. I simply took Liu Chi's arm and walked away. Yi Guan and Yi Yun's voices roared behind me. You'll regret this. Shen Ze. I didn't look back, sheltered by Liu Chi as we walked out of the Yi family courtyard. On my last day in the country, I went to the company to hand over my work. Liu Chi was stopped downstairs, but he waited for me, never leaving the building entrance. During the handover, I heard my former colleagues whispering and pointing at me. That's Mr. Ye's fiancé, the one he cheated on. Cheating in front of his parents' graves. How ungrateful. My phone buzzed with a flood of photos of Liu Chi and me. Hashtag famous wedding planner cheats before wedding. The topic's popularity soared, and appointment cancellations followed one after another. I won't let a cheater design my wedding. Scum like you should die. My inbox was filled with vicious insults. I calmly cleared the messages and prepared to leave, but Yi Guan and Yi Yun blocked me in the stairwell. Their eyes were red as they looked up at me. Xiao Ze, I knew you'd come to us. We're getting married tomorrow, and the rumors will be debunked. Yi Guan nervously tried to hold my hand. I know you and that woman were just putting on a show to provoke us. I won't hold it against you. Isn't this what you wanted? Yi Yun echoed her. Yeah. Are you still angry that we threw things out? It was just a little joke. Those things were old anyway. I tried to pull my hand away and asked casually, Did you do this? A flicker of guilt crossed their faces, and they gripped my hand tighter. Seeing my lack of reaction, they became more anxious. Su Cheng did it. He's already been punished. The top planner position has always been reserved for you. Of course, I knew Su Cheng did it. He'd been moaning and groaning all morning about his demotion. A steady stream of jewelry had been discreetly delivered to his private office as consolation. I just shook my head. Do you remember that equipment was a gift from you? They froze. Old things should be replaced. I calmly pulled my hand away and turned to leave. Shen Ze, their voices were harsh behind me. You're a wedding planner. Are you going to let this scandal ruin your future? I knew Su Cheng was just a pawn in taking the photos. Weren't they the ones truly fanning the flames behind the scenes? I was silent for a long time, then nodded. Then choose a wedding dress. Their eyes lit up, their faces ecstatic. I knew you couldn't bear to leave us. Let's go see the wedding venue now. I almost laughed. The reason I was looking at their wedding dresses was simply because there were too many basic designs. I didn't even want Liu Chi to have the same style as them. As before, they pushed me into the passenger seat. But their faces changed when they saw the cushion on the floor and pulled me into the back. I pretended not to notice. Liu Chi's car followed, not too close, not too far, as I arrived at the wedding venue. They opened the car doors for me, one in front and one behind, a gesture I hadn't seen in a while. Unlike the time, they left me alone in the pouring rain to rush into the banquet, leaving with all their bodyguards and Su Cheng. They were cautious. Look, this is based on your wedding plan. These are TV reporters. I'll clarify the facts to them tomorrow. Before they could finish, their eyes widened. The wedding venue was a chaotic mess, the bouquet an atrocious shade of green. Su Cheng strolled out as if nothing was wrong. You're here. Seeing me, he feigned surprise and tried to shield Yi Guan and Yi Yun. But Yi Yun angrily pulled him forward. Who allowed you to make these changes? She kept glancing at me nervously. Su Cheng was taken aback, his voice dropping involuntarily. You demoted me. I wanted to contribute more to you. So, I had to start with this big wedding. You gave me the access pass to all the plans. He frowned. In the past, they would have hugged him and coaxed him. But now they just rushed to me. Shen Ze, don't overthink it. We only gave in the pass because you were temporarily away. Cheng's face was almost contorted with anger. I shook my head indifferently and handed them the chosen wedding dress photo. After all, this plan was also one of my lost drafts. I didn't know how it ended up in Cheng's hands, let alone passed on to them. And they had given him the access pass years ago. Seeing that I had chosen the dress, Yun and Guan relaxed. We'll pick you up tomorrow. Don't worry, the rumors won't affect you. We'll get you even bigger clients in the future. I responded non-committally, checking my ticket and the final plan. My aloofness was truly unusual. Along the way, they uneasily tried to make small talk with me. Although they sensed something was amiss, they didn't know where to begin. They stayed with me at the hotel until late at night. When the suitcase opened, the manuscript drifted out, and Guan's eyes lit up as she picked it up. Shen Ze, I knew you were looking forward to the wedding. Let's have another one according to this plan later. We have plenty of time. But she didn't know there was no later for us. Her expression was so affectionate, as if she still loved me deeply. Yin also put her arm around my shoulder, her voice filled with joy. The Yi family will always be your home. After they left, I showered 3 times, scrubbing my skin raw. Early in the morning, I got into Liu Chi's car headed for the airport, and my phone kept ringing. Text messages from Guan and Yun filled with anxious inquiries. Where are you? Answer the phone. Why can't we find you at the hotel? Reply. Amidst the trending news of a top wedding planner being the other woman, I calmly removed my SIM card and tossed it into an airport trash can. Landing in a foreign country and arriving at the wedding venue, I finally felt a sense of detachment from the past. There was a knock on the door, and my assistant handed me a phone streaming the live broadcast from back home. In the video of the Yi family wedding, someone shouted, "The groom is here." Guan looked over excitedly, but the reporters shifted their cameras to Cheng, dressed in a wedding suit, stepping out of the car. He walked towards Guan with an air of composure, only to be awkwardly dodged. Yin forced a smile for the camera, her eyes darting. Shen Ze, if you don't come soon, your wife will be stolen. This casual joke between them caused the reporters to exchange confused glances. Cheng apologized to the reporters with a smile. Sorry, my best man's suit was ruined, and this is the only backup I have. A sullen Guan pulled him aside, her voice low. Where is he? Cheng stammered for a long time before saying, He's gone. Who knows? Maybe he eloped with that mistress. Yun and Guan's eyes widened in disbelief, their fingernails digging into their palms. They rushed out the door, and the television crew scrambled after them, desperately trying to keep up. But the moment they ran outside, the mall's large screen was looping a video of Liu Chi and me together over the past few days. The crowd erupted in gasps, and the news exploded. Is the affair real? Is this the Yi family's revenge? But in the next second, our marriage certificate was displayed. The date of marriage was clearly written, 5 days prior. All the evidence gathered over the past few days was then revealed. All the credit stolen from me, the treatments. In the video, Guan and Yun's faces turned deathly pale, their bodies swaying. 5 days ago, they were humiliating me at my meticulously planned wedding for Cheng. 5 days later, they still allowed Cheng to be the best man, while I had already embarked on a new life. I put down the phone, and I put down the past. After the evidence was presented, the live broadcast of my wedding with Liu Chi began. The plan that Guan always believed was for her became my wedding with Liu Chi. The sky filled with pink and white balloons, the dreamy layered decorations. The Liu family's wealth allowed my tirelessly designed plan to quickly come to fruition. Seeing the perfect wedding I had poured my heart into finally become reality, I couldn't help but tear up. Liu Chi excitedly threw herself at me, her smile radiant and unrestrained. My design made the wedding sparkle and overflow with romance. And the Liu family's wealth, which the Yi family couldn't compare to, added a layer of gold. Everyone marveled at every detail, every concept of the wedding. At the end of the broadcast, Liu Chi raised her glass. To those who, like us, found happiness today. I saw the subtle triumph in her eyes. But I also smiled more genuinely from the heart. We raised our glasses together, the liquids mingling in a toast. And outside the video, we simultaneously put down our microphones, bringing this grand wedding to a perfect close. This century wedding, along with the revelation of the Liu family's long-hidden heir, topped the trending searches, exploding with related hashtags. Even interspersed were many snippets of Yi Yun and Yi Guan. The waves Yi Yun and Yi Guan made before leaving ultimately became the knives that stabbed them. Public opinion quickly turned one-sided, and the few who supported the Yi family were silenced. This time, people finally recognized the Liu family's influence, and their perception of the Yi family was refreshed. And I was just focused on preparing for an international competition. I was quite surprised to encounter Yi Yun and Yi Guan while honeymooning and filming in another country. It wasn't until they hurriedly tried to grab me and leave that I realized they were here for me. That wedding plan was clearly prepared for me and you. Come home with me. There's a limit to throwing tantrums. Yi Guan frowned, and Yin also scolded me sharply. Come back with us now and clarify things. You tricked us with a fake ID photo, and the impact of you running away from the wedding has been huge for the Yi family. Stop being so childish. The two of them chimed in. I struggled free. That plan was never for you. Our wedding ended the day you gave it to Su Cheng and turned it into a bachelor party. Immediately, some kind-hearted people separated their outstretched arms. They turned their gaze to me and roared. Shen Ze, make them go away. Listen to our explanation. I calmly thanked the kind foreign friends and called the police. The two looked at me in disbelief. Shen Ze, have you forgotten the Yi family's kindness in raising you? I firmly held Liu Chi's hand. I already have a wife. Please stop harassing me. Yin faltered for a moment, then broke free and lunged forward, slapping Liu Chi. Seducing someone else's fiancée. You're so despicable. She roared, and I actually saw grievance in her reddened eyes. Shen Ze is a member of our Yi family. I hugged Liu Chi tightly, and the slap landed heavily on my neck. She woke up as if from a dream and retreated in a panic. Wait, I'm not. Yi Guan looked at me pleadingly. Xiao Ze, you know we didn't mean it. Forgive Xiao Yun. She hoped that I would, as before, chase after them, accept their apology, and comfort them thoroughly. I couldn't stop coughing, but I didn't waver. Tears even fell from their eyes. Why don't you just love money? We can give you what that woman can. They still thought I had abandoned them for the Liu family's wealth. I suddenly wanted to laugh for my past foolishness. As the police took them away, I straightened Liu Chi's clothes. Why didn't you let the bodyguards protect you? Let them spend a few days inside, so they can't disturb our honeymoon. Her voice was gentle, but it held an unstoppable coldness. I couldn't help but smile. After that, I paid no more attention to the news of Yi Guan and Yi Yun returning home, and just concentrated on preparing for the competition. Busy until evening, there was a sudden knock on the door. I thought Liu Chi had returned from shopping, but I found Yi Guan and Yi Yun standing at the door, drenched. They looked haggard and thin. I was surprised to find that my first reaction was whether Liu Chi, without an umbrella, would get wet. Seeing me calmly about to close the door, Yi Yun hurriedly grabbed the door, her voice trembling. Xiao Ze, won't you invite us in to sit down? I shook my head. I'm going to give my wife an umbrella. Yi Guan's eyes reddened. Xiao Ze, how is this possible? How can you not love me? It was my fault that I didn't notice your feelings before. Be good, come back with me. That ID must be fake. I forcefully shook off her hand to try to grab me. Xiao Ze, stop being difficult. I backed away. Do I need to remind you? Illegal entry in a foreign country. I can shoot you. They looked at me in agony. But I was no longer the person who used to fawn over them like a dog. It was because I loved them then. Now I just extended my hand, politely asking them to leave. What? Now that you have your Su Cheng, you remember Xiao Ze's goodness. Liu Chi walked in from outside, shaking the water from her umbrella all over them. Now, Shen Ze is my husband, and a qualified ex-girlfriend should be like she's dead. Liu Chi's composure made the two of them appear even more pathetic and downcast. Yiyun's fingernails dug deeply into her palms. We've been childhood sweethearts since we were young. Do you remember that time in high school when it suddenly rained and you ran over to give me an umbrella? Seeing me somewhat lost in thought, her eyes lit up. Your birthday presents were all the props you loved most, given by us, right? Do you remember we said we wanted to have a party, just the three of us? I returned to my senses, smiled, and looked behind her. Subconsciously, she followed my gaze. She saw countless cherished design props meticulously displayed. You haven't given me a gift in years. Those tools are obsolete. Even those memories were discarded by them, personally. Her hand fell limply, trembling. The old props, drenched by the rain, had long been replaced with brand new ones. Aren't you leaving yet? Your little lover has come to find you, Liu Chi said with a faint smile, and the two of them looked up in alarm and uncertainty. A figure rushed in from the door and tightly embraced their waists. You promised to be good to me. Next time, could you please not leave me alone? Even coming to apologize to me, they had to bring Su Cheng along. Truly devoted. Get lost. If it weren't for the client specifically requesting you, we wouldn't have brought you. The two pushed him away forcefully and looked at me in a panic. Shen Ze, we just thought you were asking for too much before and wanted to temper your character. We've always loved you. Su Cheng stumbled, then angrily pulled out a knife and lunged towards me. It's all because of you, you bitch. Social climbing and ruining the Yi family's reputation. I saw his eyes bloodshot, his expression haggard. He must have suffered quite a bit back home. But before Liu Chi could act, Yiyun and Guan were the first to hit him with chairs. Su Cheng couldn't get up from the floor, but they just looked at me hopefully. Shen Ze, look, we really don't like him anymore. I know he used to target you. Believe us, we won't let him get away with it. Just look at us again. It's not that they didn't know. It's that they always saw what they wanted to see. As they were being dragged out by the security guards, they were still screaming. Just like that day when I was dragged out of the cemetery. Liu Chi had them sent back to detention, this time for trespassing. But there were always some negative stories surfacing online. Hashtag Shen Ze plagiarism. Hashtag Shen Ze 2 timing. The articles twisted the day Liu Chi and I got our marriage license into me, toying with Guan and getting married. It's obvious it was Su Cheng's doing. I frowned, but Liu Chi just came over with a large stack of documents and said, "Don't worry, it will be resolved." Looking at her bright smile, I couldn't help but feel reassured. While out shopping for tools, I heard about Guan and Yiyun's current situation. They were ordered by their grandfather not to leave the country and to compensate for the losses they caused the Yi family. I breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, no one would disturb my competition. The organizers of the competition came to interview me about my landscaping, and I nervously listened to their continuous praise. Liu Chi said I could definitely make it into the global top 3. But a week before the results were announced, my previous work appeared in a plagiarism notice. I looked closely, and the signature was Su Cheng. I opened the message window, where they kept sending me messages. After being kicked out of my house, Su Cheng was tied up and tortured by them, even deprived of all his stomach medicine. After returning to the country, Su Cheng was forcibly confined to his workstation and run ragged. His refined appearance was gone, replaced by age and exhaustion. They sent me pictures of Su Cheng's miserable state, and I frowned as I looked at them. Shen Ze, I know you hate him very much. We avenged you. Their words were filled with pleading. I don't hate him anymore. Compared to him, you hurt me more. The typing indicator appeared repeatedly on the other end, but ultimately fell silent. They probably signed Su Cheng up for this competition. Suddenly, Su Cheng's popularity skyrocketed, and the previous mistress scandal was dredged up again. His reputation as a planner in the industry was completely ruined. So, all his previous works were stolen. He also stole Shen Ze's fiancée. Both of them were blind, praising a plagiarist like he was something special. Everyone sneered and watched the excitement. Father Yu was furious, but not a single comment was deleted. Yi Yun and Yi Guan masochistically let those words sting them. Will this calm you down a bit? They were no longer as arrogant as they had been at the beginning, carefully sending me messages. I will win the award even without anyone's help. What you do has nothing to do with me. I responded calmly. The private messages completely died down. I collected my thoughts and quietly waited for the results to be announced tomorrow. Looking at my homeland, which I hadn't seen for over a year, I couldn't help but feel emotional. That absurd wedding turned into a singles party, and the hurt it caused me seemed to have vanished. Liu Chi swiped his card to enter the hotel room and complained to me. Those two annoying Yi sisters are here again, kneeling at the hotel entrance begging to see you. I opened the curtains and looked down. They were stubbornly kneeling at the hotel entrance. There were constantly passers-by, taking pictures. The topic was already showing signs of trending. Yi Guan is so devoted. Poor Yi Yun has to do the same. Whoa, wake up. She's a married woman. What kind of self-deception is this? I like this comment. Self-deception is the most useless thing. I realized that a long time ago. Early the next morning, all the comments about me cheating were cleared. Because of the wedding with Yi Guan, all the surveillance videos were released. Everyone clearly saw how Yi Yun and Yi Guan humiliated their fiancée for Su Cheng. And at this moment, I was stepping onto the podium, winning the crown of the global design competition. Forest landscaping, stone steps covered with a long flower path. A dreamlike scenery, like a paradise. I held the crystal trophy entwined with flower vines and hugged Liu Chi. But when I left the exhibition hall, I saw Su Cheng. He had been restrained by security, holding a bottle of sulfuric acid in his hand. Before being taken away, he shouted desperately at me. Why can you have everything? Design awards, and 3 women who love you around you, why? I shook my head. Instead of finding value in women, it's better to focus on developing yourself. I used to focus on Yi Guan and Yi Yun's approval for my planning and designs. But looking back now, the world is much wider than the small Yi family home. He cried and kicked like a madman. Yi Guan and Yi Yun haven't appeared in my life since the award ceremony. I do see news about them often, though. Several planning projects that Su Cheng took over have successively imploded. Yi Guan and Yi Yun let the companies collapse. Father Yi, who had already retired, took over to deal with the mess, but he couldn't stop Ye's stock price from plummeting. The two were forced to borrow money until they were desperate, and then they messaged me again. We are atoning for our sins. We are really suffering. This is what we deserve. Shen Ze, can you forgive us? Happy? I don't really feel anything. Even if the Yi family's bankruptcy is inevitable, I have nothing to do with them anymore. Liu Chi and I simply gave ourselves a vacation to celebrate. Towards the end of the vacation, I went to the cemetery. The Liu family found an extremely secluded place to place my parents' ashes. I was going abroad again, and although I had already told them the good news on the day of the award, I still wanted to say goodbye to them in person one more time. Mom and Dad, look, I'm living well. I wiped the tombstone and didn't go down the mountain until evening. But at the foot of the mountain, I met 2 unexpected people, Yi Yun and Yi Guan. The two were distraught and haggard, completely different from their former glory. They staggered to their feet after seeing me. I don't know how long they had been there. Yi Guan looked directly at me. Shen Ze, we are here to apologize to our parents-in-law. I frowned, and they flusteredly corrected themselves. We have always regretted treating you like that. We've searched countless places with countless people, one by one, before we found this place. We really just want to apologize. I'm afraid you'll dirty my parents' eyes. They stood frozen in place. I sighed and boarded the waiting car with Liu Chi, heading straight for the airport. Their car followed closely behind, not too far away. So innovative and beautiful. I thought his wedding with Liu Chi was the peak of his design. There's something even more beautiful. If I missed this kind of wedding, I would regret it for the rest of my life. Passers-by marveled while holding their phones. An inexplicable and immense pain appeared on Yi Yun and Yi Guan's faces. But they were kept far away from the crowd by bodyguards and could only look from afar. Our childhood friendship ends here. I didn't look at them again and boarded the plane with Liu Chi. My future life will still be magnificent.